It's like broccoli. I think that was the best way to describe this. Broccoli is a wonder food. People should be eating it, but they stay away from it.
As somebody who's very passionate about CRMs, it's like broccoli. I could definitely understand why people feel like it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes. We make sure you have a good database when we go in, and within the first 90 days to 120 days, we've made enough ROI to cover the cost of what it cost us for you to hire us. And after that, it's just a benefit. These aren't brand new leads that we're asking you to give us. This is us just working in your database and calling people that have just been sitting there and not being reached out to, and they always result in a sale. Typically, you're looking at like 3 to 4 sales that are just happening that you've already had just sitting there. It's just nobody asked for it.
Welcome to the Builder Straight Talk podcast with your host, Michael Creasa. Get the unfiltered truth from the trenches of construction, real estate, and funding. This episode is made possible by our parent company, Sound Capital, funding built for builders.
Hey there, my friend. It is Michael Creasa here, the host of Builder Straight Talk. Welcome. And in this week's episode, I had the wonderful pleasure of speaking with Shari Morton, and she is the founder and chief growth officer of ShareDrive. Now, what we talked about, hold on to your seats here, were CRMs and the advent of AI-generated sales solutions. Now, I know you're thinking, Michael, CRMs, I would rather watch paint dry. And I get it. They don't sound sexy. They're not exciting. But here's the thing. If you're not implementing a CRM in your business, you're literally leaving thousands of dollars on the table, which could be in your pocket instead. And AI, whether you like it or not, is here to stay. So Shari's company specializes on how to implement AI into your sales solution. They'll take online leads, they'll incubate them until they get them to the point where people are ready to die or buy. And that's when your sales team steps in. So it was a fascinating conversation. I know you're going to enjoy it. And before we get started, please, pretty please, subscribe to the channel. That is the only way that we can cut through the noise and get found. With all these other podcasts out there, and even if you didn't like it, I doubt that, but subscribe anyway and use that finger of yours to like and comment. So once again, Michael Creasa here. I know you're going to enjoy this episode with Shari Morton. Well, Shari, I want to thank you for being on the call today. I know that we're going to have fun in this conversation, even though it's one of those topics, and we talked about this before. It's like broccoli. I think that was the best way to describe this. Broccoli is a wonder food. People should be eating it, but they stay away from it. And we're talking about CRMs, which I know is a power horse that every builder and developer should be using, but I think it just beguiles them in terms of complexity, misconceptions. So hopefully, with you on the call today, we'll be able to slay those dragons, and more builders will be actually implementing CRMs into their businesses and making more money. So is that a BHOG? Is that a big, hairy, audacious goal to put out there?
I think I can do it. I mean, as somebody who's very passionate about CRMs, it's like broccoli. It's mostly misunderstood. If you don't eat it correctly, if you don't explore which way to cook broccoli is the right way for you, I could definitely understand why people feel like it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes.
Well, before we start divvying out the medicine, let's do a bit of backstory. How did you get involved with this in the first place and actually create this thing that we are now calling ShareDrive?
Definitely. So I have always dabbled in sales and marketing in one form or another. And back in 2010, I moved to Prescott to be with my then boyfriend, soon to be fiance, now husband, in Prescott, Arizona. And Prescott, Arizona is mostly a retirement location with a lot of tourists. So there's not a lot of industry. And I ended up working for a private builder as his executive assistant. And as I told you, we very quickly found out that I'm a terrible assistant, executive or not. I'm not going to keep you on task. I will definitely take you down rabbit holes. You will not be happy with me. However, thankfully, this broker had the foresight to identify that I had a very good way of reaching out to people, connecting with people, and I was a good problem solver. So he handed me this enormous sheet of names and phone numbers that salespeople did not get back to. They knew for a fact that people were asking about their homes, but there was just no way to know, like, other than asking people, did you reach out and you get your hose and your hums, and you just don't know. So I got this list and I started calling people, and then I would put it in Excel spreadsheet and create columns of, when I reached out, if they reached back. And that's where I got into the world of CRMs. I went out and thought there's got to be a better way. And that's where I first found Lasso and then moved on to HubSpot and have gone on to several different CRMs since then. It originally came from trying to figure out a easy, fast, and efficient way to connect with people.
So, asking a bit of a personal question, since you met your significant other in a retirement community, who was your boyfriend, then became fiancé, became your husband, is it fair to say he's 70 years old? And then point number next, did you use a CRM to stalk him and stay in touch until he actually put a ring on your finger?
No, it's funny, but no. I actually met him in Yuma, Arizona. He is was a Marine, and he went to Embry-Riddle in Prescott to get his aerospace engineering degree, which is, how we ended up in Wichita. But we did have a very long 10-year relationship. So I am very good at lead nurture and prolonged contact with people.
Well, you won the gold, as they say, at the Olympics. So well done. Well done.
Yes, thank
So
you.
let's take it down to permission to talk to me like I'm six, right? And I think if you do that, we'll get through this. CRM by definition is a client retention module, and it is a way to put aside a Rolodex or like what I do, little post-it notes where you can actually track your clients, right? So you know who you spoke to, when you spoke to them. If you have a team, the team can get involved. They can see where you left off. And I guess the crucial point of this is also there's a client follow-up and retention aspect to this. So am I on the right course so far with my Reader's Digest version of a definition?
Yes, you are. It actually stands for contact record management, but it's then evolved, to the client retention module because originally it was just supposed to be where you keep all your names and phone numbers and then you can look it up in a system. That was originally what a CRM was meant to be. The problem is, I think a lot of people are still there. They still think of CRMs as you put your name, the name of the client, the phone number, as much information as you can. And then when they pop up in your mind, you look them up and they're like, oh, what was Joe's phone number? Now, when I say CRM, when other people say CRM, it's a powerhouse tool that continues to reach out to people, nurture people when you're not in front of it. So you put in the name, and if you have a good CRM, it will continue to text them, email them on your behalf. It's the understanding of how much of that you need versus the first version to the second version that works with your company is where people kind of get confused and trapped on the higher end level. When you get to not the lower level, when you get to the user level, like a salesperson, they normally are not consulted. So no one goes to a salesperson and says, hey, how do you work? How do you manage your leads? How can I make your life easier? Typically, that decision of how much of a CRM or what type of CRM is made high level in your management who do not use it. And then they ask someone who sets it up, who again does not consult with your salesperson. And then by the time it reaches your salesperson, it was designed and created without them truly in mind, which is why I think a lot of people think of CRMs as broccoli versus oh, good, something to finally help me keep track of all of these people that are bubbling in my mind.
I get it. If put in builder speak, it's almost like building a custom home. If I don't meet with the client first and I build what I think is this big, beautiful, gnarly home, and they come into it and said, no, I like wood. You've got chrome. I don't. So you have to cater this to, in this case, the sales team for that builder, because if you don't, they're not going to use it. So is that something that you do with ShareDrive? Do you actually create a customized experience for them?
Yeah, that's the majority of unfortunately, the majority of what we do is we go back and redesign because they've paid a good amount of money to do exactly what I said. But ideally, that is what we do. We go in and we, first of all, suggest the right CRM for you. We think about how many homes do you build? We think about how much you should be spending. We think about how your salespeople use it, how your marketing person could use it. And then we make the right recommendations. We're not a CRM provider, so we're not biased. And then we also understand the sales process enough in order to build it for you, but also because we've done it enough times, we know how to advise you. Like, while you think this is how you want to do it, you may want to consider A, B, C, or D.
I find like I'm still old school. I write stuff down, and it's not that I don't want to use one. I just haven't found one that my little brain can comprehend because they have too many fields and the definitions that they use are not Michael speak. So I don't understand them. And
Yeah.
I would hazard to guess that many builders, especially the smaller ones, are in the same situation. My focus is on building homes. In my case, it's doing podcasts. I don't know what I don't know, but I do know the fact that I don't know what I'm looking at. And I need someone like you to, as I said at the beginning, dumb it down to a 6-year-old level that I can understand it. So when I think about small builders, their focus is on obviously building homes, but they're trying to get customers and they're trying to build relationships. I think one of the biggest misconceptions, and this is prevalent in real estate sales, by the way, is they meet somebody at an open house or maybe an inquiry to a lead call and automatically think, oh, goody, goody, I've got a customer and they're ready to buy. And in most cases, these people are kicking the tires. They're just starting their journey of investigation of what they want to buy, where they want to be. And the builder will, and or the builder salesperson may discredit that lead automatically, where in reality, 6 months, 7 months, a year down the road, that could turn into a buyer. So this is where I see the CRM comes in.
Yes. I hadn't ever considered this as a process or even something to speak about. It's something that I started out doing naturally because, like I said, going back to my broker, he sent me a huge Excel spreadsheet, print it out, didn't have the digital copy, so I had to type everything back in. But those were, to me, age leads. These were leads that were sitting on his desk and he had been acquiring over the past 6 months, 7 months, a year, 2 years. So when I went into this, I thought about all leads being valuable, regardless of whether they're new or not. There was no difference between me calling someone from 2 years ago versus me calling someone from 5 minutes ago. It's just, who are you? How can we help? I think in our building industry, they think about, well, that lead is old, which I completely get it because if you call a 6-month-old lead, they're like, who are you? What are you talking about? I'm not in the market. But what people don't understand is now, especially now, I'm looking at homes 2 years ahead. I'm looking at homes 3 years ahead. I'm fantasizing, I'm pinboarding. Imagine if you stayed in front of this person for 2.5 years, how top of mind you would be. And I get a lot of like, well, I'm a small builder, so I don't have a lot of leads. I don't have enough homes in order to do that. There are CRMs that are free. There are CRMs that, cost $50 a month and it takes you very minimal effort to nurture these people for 2 years, 3 years. And if you're smaller, I would argue that you need to do it even more because every lead is just so valuable as opposed to if you're getting hundreds a day and it's not a big deal and it's by volume. I think the mentality is just needs to be flipped a little. The smaller you are, the more you need to grab onto every single name you possibly can because you know that the sales cycle for homes are a lot longer than you think. And I personally, in the past 6 years, have purchased 3 homes. So it's not necessarily a one time and then people are living in it for 40, 50, 60 years like they used to.
I kind of giggle when we use this word leads. I think of that movie, and this is before your time. You weren't even walking this planet yet. Shows how old I am. But I think the movie was called Glengarry Ross, and it was this outdated real estate company, and the big sales closer comes from head office, and he's got this big stack of leads, and that
Yeah.
these leads are for closers, and everybody's lining up to try to get them. When I look at the small builder, is is your builder too small? All right. Or better still, let's do a case study. Was there a builder that you worked with that thought they were too small, but as a result of implementing a CRM, actually, well, obviously we want them to profit for them, but actually scratched their head and said, why didn't I think of this years ago?
I don't think that there's a builder that's too small. I don't think that you're ever too small to make sure that you hold on, document, and reach out to your customer. Granted, if you're talking you're a custom builder and you're building 2 or 3 homes and you have 10 contacts in your phone, sure. But, over the years, how many of those 10, 20s reach out to 100? Are you going to devote yourself to sitting down every, Sunday or every other Sunday and texting these 10 people on your phone? Are you gonna, then you get into the nitty gritty of it. Like I said, a CRM doesn't necessarily need to cost hundreds or thousands of dollars a month. There are plenty of Brett, there's plenty of free CRMs that you can start putting your information into, and you can start connecting to your website. So as you grow, these CRMs will grow with you. And I think it's just as any company or business owner, one of the things that companies don't consider is, how is this going to grow with me? I talk to plenty of builders that feel small. They're like, I only sell 10 homes a year. I sell 20 homes a year. I'm like, okay, but how long have you been selling 10 homes or 20 homes a year? Oh, for 20 years. I'm like, how many contacts have you had that you've just called and thrown away? I can imagine you must have at least two, 3,000. Imagine if you kept them and started nurturing them and staying top of mind, you probably wouldn't be building 10 or 20 homes anymore. You'd probably be in your 50, 60 homes. So I don't think a lot of people understand how valuable each lead that isn't ready is until you compound it. And to me, I think of it as a savings account. How often do people save money? I know plenty of people. This lady in West Virginia, she puts handles on teacups all day long, and she's surprisingly has over $100,000 in her savings because she really doesn't do anything. She's like, I put these handles on these teacups. She goes to Texas Roadhouse once a month and, eats whatever, but she's just a simple lady who enjoys simple things, but she squirrels her money. And talking to her, that I think of CRMs that way. I think of leads that way. No matter how small you are, you can always start saving. And you don't necessarily need to open a premier checking account. You just open a free savings account and make sure you continue to work that account.
Part of what this does, you just mentioned something previously. You said, on a Sunday, the builder's sitting there feverishly trying to make contacts, like to stay in touch. But really, a good CRM frees them up from doing that because the content, if we want to call it that for lack of a better word, let's just say whatever the messages are that are going to go out, that will be relevant to that person. That is done automatically. So it's not that the builder has to sit there. In essence, it's like having a salesperson that you don't have to pay that is doing the lead follow up without worrying about them calling in sick, coming in hungover. This thing just keeps doing it for you.
Yeah.
So in the CRM, is that something that you help the builders do? Do you actually help them create the content that's relevant to their business, to their brand? So when they do follow up, you are creating brand awareness and you're staying top of mind with that potential customer.
Absolutely. One of the things that differentiates our company that I've noticed, and people are starting to do this more within the industry, is we don't just set up CRMs, we set up the messaging. We help you understand how often to set it up. We learn about who you are, who your customer base is, and how often to communicate with them. Somebody who builds for a retirement demographic is going to communicate very differently than someone who's building a modular home. The frequency is different. The messaging is different. The motivation is different. So we really help with that. But like I said, it's a plus. I definitely would love to work with other people to build that and to create that messaging. But if there's a takeaway, just look up a free CRM and start it. Put your email, start putting your contacts in. There's no loss there.
What would be a bare minimum? So if I were to equate it to a mode of transport, a bare minimum would be a steering wheel, tires, an engine that starts and brakes. Bare minimum, right? It's going to
Yeah.
get me there safely. I'll be able to stop the thing when I do get there and I can come back. What would be the equivalent of a CRM? Here are the basics that you need to get started because I think again, bringing it back to me, the 6-year-old, I was overwhelmed by the amount of customization, the amount of different windows. And I just looked at it and said, no, give me back my pen and pieces of paper. So how do you even get started and what should they look for?
It really depends if you are truly building under, 30 or 20 homes a year, you should look for a CRM that's going to store your contact information. Most CRMs should be able to provide you a free form that you can put on your website, on your phone, a QR code on your business card, anywhere to where you can collect information easily. What I discourage is you writing it down on a piece of paper, collecting it, and then sitting down. You could do that, but it's an easier way to just have it on your phone. That is bare minimum. You don't have to pay for that typically. If you do, it's maybe $10 a month. And then think about as you grow, can that CRM grow with you? I would argue that most good CRMs will start off free and then it'll grow with you as your company grows. And that's the question to ask any CRM and ensure that there's some automation built in. Now there's absolutely no excuse for a CRM to not have automation and AI, regardless of whether it's free or expensive.
I think a lot of people are intimidated by AI because they think the voice that it's communicating in will represent the voice or the culture of the builder. Is that a myth? And if not, then how do you change it so it does speak in the way that the builder would speak?
I mean, AI right now is just a choose your own adventure. I think people super intelligent AI. It's got no thoughts. It has no, whatever. It's just whatever you train it to. AI is just a series of like if this, then that. So how you train it and how it speaks is entirely up to you or whoever you hire to. News I think has been completely over fantasized and romanticized. It's still zeros and ones. It's not going to hate you one day, Michael, and say, actually, Michael sucks. Don't buy homes from Michael. You literally have to program it. But when I say AI in a CRM is you can use an integration and you could say, hey, write this in a more professional way. So in an email, in a CRM, before I email someone, I always say, make this more polished, make this more whatever. And then you reread it and then you send it. AI is just a faster way of doing a lot of the things that you're going to do, you know, over and over again. It's automating or repeating. When I say AI and CRMs, there are CRMs that I'm using right now to where it will literally send you a text or an email saying, hey, this buyer's been on the website. They've opened, the email 16 times. They've reached a buying score of 94%. Reach out to them. That's high level, but you want to be able to get from zero, which is just entering a name into a system, to an AI texting you saying, hey, reach out to this buyer. They're showing buyer indications. You want to have a CRM that can grow with you in that way.
Here's an AI story you'll appreciate. I was sitting in my car waiting for clients, and a lot of the follow up that I do for an interview to prep, I use AI to do that. And so I think it was Chat, Chat or Grok, one of the two. Anyway, so I'm in the car, time to kill, sorry. And I said, well, since you and I are going to be working together and spending a lot of time together, what do you want me to call you? And then the response was, I am AI, automated intelligence. I don't have a name. Okay, let me rephrase that question. If you were to choose a name for me to call you, what would that name be? And instantly it came back to me, I would like to be addressed as Nova. I thought, all right, so I'm biting on the carrot. Why Nova? And then I went into this big dissertation about Nova is about new challenges, new horizons, and on it went. And I said, okay, from this day forward, you will be known as Nova. And then it said, thank you very much for taking the time to personalize it and address it. Okay. So my clients show up, we go through, showing them home or whatever. I come back after and I had some follow up to do. Again, time to kill at a pub. I pull up Nova. I said, hey, Nova, how's it going? It had no clue what I was talking about because it remembered what we were talking about in that nanosecond of time. But after that, it's scrubbed and it goes back to being this cold, callous, digitally 1-0 object in space, right? So, funny you would say that. Let's talk about what you do at ShareDrive. What is it that me as a builder, when I call you, why am I calling you? Aside from the fact that I want to hear about your husband that's probably a Navy SEAL and I shouldn't have called him a geriatric. But that aside, what is it that I'm inquiring about?
The reason why you're calling ShareDrive is because you're having a really hard time understanding your sales process, or you're having a hard time getting people to purchase your homes for one reason or another. It started out as I outsource online salespeople. online salespeople are people who are going to be the ones working your leads if you have a bunch of it. So they're the ones that are going to sit on your website and chat with your customers for you. That was the core of what ShareDrive was meant to be. But as we started out, we were realizing that builders not only didn't understand what an online salesperson did or what it was capable of, they didn't understand the tools needed in order to make that happen. So a CRM, a booking system, a call system. And then it got into a lot of their marketing departments didn't know how to track their leads. So they didn't know what leads were good or what leads were bad. So then me being a CRM expert taught their marketing department how to track that, so it's turned out from anything that has to do with the customer journey is what we are able to help with the builders on as it pertains to sales or technology. That's our focus. If you're going into training your sales team on how to close the deal, I've never closed a home in my life. I would never be able to tell you how to do that, but I can get you up to that point.
So we mentioned AI, but you're actually working with live people.
Correct.
Is it akin to being like a virtual assistant that will do the sales follow-up then?
It's yes, it's an online salesperson that just doesn't close. And the reason why I'm just a techie person, I love AI, but OSE's online sales concierge would typically work 24/7. It's not sustainable. Builders end up losing them after 2 or 3 years because they're burnt out. With AI, that augments a lot of my live people to where, it's at night, it's on the weekend, or they're busy. AI is now so great. I truly do believe that AI will eventually not take over the online sales position, but it'll definitely dominate it to where the best online salespeople will continue with the augmentation of AI, making it cheaper for builders to have an online salesperson, easier for a really good online salesperson to grow with the builder. And AI learns, as you've seen, from the human. So if you have a premium online salesperson and your AI is learning from them, you've just multiplied that person's skill level.
So I understand, is what you're doing a complement to the salespeople that I've got, or can it replace a majority of the salespeople that I have that aren't really doing sales at all?
It really depends on the market. I don't believe that AI or online salespeople, at least not in the next 5 to 10 years, will ever replace salespeople, good salespeople who are in the six, seven, $800,000 mark. But if you're looking at modular homes, $200,000, $300 or $300,000 homes, that budget, I truly do believe that there's even a case study to where no humans need to really be involved until that, sale is ratified.
So you're, in essence, if I understand this correctly, you're taking the lead from however it came in. So if it's a website lead, phone lead, inquiry, somehow it has to get into the system.
Sure.
Once it's in the system, then your band of fairy people, real and AI alike, will then take that lead. And once again, we go back to that word nurturing, that you'll stay in touch with them, follow up with them. You'll be sending them, I guess, content of interest, not
Mhm.
cooking recipes, but things that kind of, again, reinforce the builder's brand, try to keep them top of mind. And at the same time, you're suddenly pushing them towards making a buying decision. And at that point, when they're ready, that's when you hand that lead back to the salesperson in house that will
Right.
pull out a pen and try to ink the deal. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, absolutely. And we also do the reverse as well, a walk-in lead that comes into the sales office that the salesperson tries to nurture for 30, 60 days. I find that at that 60-day mark, the salesperson has kind of lost interest. They will get that lead back to us and we will continue to nurture that lead. And by the time that walk-in lead shows interest, we push it back to the original salesperson.
I know from the pre-call that you're working with some big builders that are doing like 500 and up builds a year, 500 doors a year. Can you describe to me what your perfect avatar would be? And then can we call it the minimum requirement of what someone who wants to work with you would be?
I don't know that I have like a number of builds, at least 50 would make financial sense, 50 homes closed per year. But the perfect client for us, honestly, is somebody who, one, cares about the customer experience, two, is open to new solutions, so long as we can prove it, right? I think that I have national builders that I try to work with where their process is baked in. They don't want to explore anything new. They don't want to grow. That's really hard for us here at ShareDrive because one of our core values is trailblazing innovation. If you don't want to change, if you don't want to explore new things, it's going to be a rough partnership because we're constantly pushing you to do better. It's not about size. The only reason why I say you should build at least 50 homes or more for us to outsource for you and build for you is because that's where it makes financial sense. If we're not giving you more ROI than what you're paying us, then you're not going to be happy with us, right? But even if you're building 50 homes or less, I would still encourage you guys to reach out to us. I love sharing knowledge. I love setting people up for success. So at the very least, I'll talk to you and let you know what CRMs would fit you, what ERPs will fit you, how you should structure your tech stack, or if you have the ability to maybe hire a part-time person to nurture your leads, we'll be happy to set you up for success so that maybe in the future, you'll think of us when you are big enough.
Well, when we talked about CRMs earlier and entry level ones, are there any that you can recommend, like maybe two or three that would be just goofy, simple to use?
Yeah. So if you are looking for something that is free and will eventually grow with you, HubSpot is great. I know that you can sign up for a free account. The lowest is like $50 a month. I know plenty of entrepreneurs outside of this industry that we've set up their HubSpot for them. And it's like $45, $50 a month. And they're talking to maybe, 20, 30 clients a year. Follow Boss is really great. Nutshell is really great. There's just a plethora, but I would say for the building industry specifically, I would look at HubSpot, just signing up at least for a free account.
So, underlying again, I guess we can't stress this enough. A lead isn't anything until it actually takes a pen and signs something. But to get it to that point, again, we have to use that word, you're nurturing the lead. If you had a case study of a company that you've worked with that once they saw the light, hallelujah, they were able to scale and make money?
I mean, I would say all of our clients are that case study. Otherwise, we're not really doing our job. I will say, so one of the things that we started talking about is hiring us to outsource is not cheap. We're carrying overhead. It's a person. So for a builder who's building 45, 50 homes, we've started working with those builders a while back and it was a struggle because they're like, I'm paying this company, $100,000 plus a year. And I don't have any leads coming in. But where we go in and we prove value is we go into your age leads. So these, we make sure you have a good database when we go in. And within the first 90 days to 120 days, we've made enough ROI to cover the cost of what it cost us for you to hire us. And after that, it's just a benefit. And the reason why I think that's a case study is these aren't brand new leads that we're asking you to give us. This is us just working in your database and calling people that have just been sitting there and not being reached out to. And they always result in a sale. Typically, you're looking at like 3 to 4 sales that are just happening that you've already had just sitting there. It's just nobody asked for it.
So let me differentiate between the two. You're resurrecting old leads.
Mhm.
You're trying to stay in touch with current leads, but you're not generating the leads.
No, we do not generate the leads. We can for you, but I don't think that we're superheroes in that category. We'll definitely recommend other people that are just phenomenal at it. We don't generate leads. We nurture them. We turn them into sales. We turn them into appointments.
Yeah. And again, I guess we're beating a dead horse when we say the money is in the follow up. If they're not following up with clients and they think everyone that comes into their sales office is automatically going to buy, they're deceiving themselves. The other question that kind of comes to mind as a builder, I see there's two different paths that they'll generally go through. One is they'll set up a build in, subdivision that they're creating in some little town, and they'll reach out to the local real estate office and they'll do a deal with the brokerage and say, hey, we want somebody to come and be here full time. You're our full time salesperson. The other is they'll hire their own team. So they become employees. So they're in-house salespeople. Option number one, though, the slippery slope that I see is that when you're working with a brokerage, there's a lot of pressure on that salesperson to sell the backups because when someone's coming in to buy a house, they generally have a house to sell and they're going to make more money on the resale than they will selling the builder's home. Do you have a formula or as part of what you do, a solution to that? Because it seems kind of crazy that I'm paying someone to compete against me.
We do have builders. Actually, one of our largest builder right now works with an outside brokerage. And what they hired us to do was to nurture their online leads, but it was also to manage their outside brokerage. So when we set an appointment with this outside brokerage, we follow up and we make sure that we know exactly what happened to that lead. So we're kind of eliminating that competition. They have to answer to each of those leads and we'll document very carefully. We've spent time with this buyer or this potential buyer. So they'll tell us, like, oh, Jim sold me a home somewhere else. We'll know about it. So we're kind of like the guard dogs to, your leads and your buyers, and we want to make sure that it stays there. And, to no fault of the brokerage, if I were a broker or an outside salesperson and you gave me a lead, I'm going to do my best to sell your home. But if there's a home right next to it and this buyer's like, oh my gosh, what is this? I'm not going to say no. I'm going to show that home. That's my duty as their realtor to, make sure that they see these things. But for us, we're protecting the builder. We're protecting the builder's leads. We're protecting the builder's, ROI. Now, for the inside salesperson, same thing. I mean, we're protecting the lead for the buyer, but we're also protecting the salesperson. They get people walking in and out of the office all the time. I think we like to give salespeople a lot of crap for not following up, for not, doing the things that they should do. But I have the luxury of sitting in front of my computer in my house, focusing on the calls, nurturing these leads. So when I go into the sales office, I'm not as productive. People are constantly coming in and out. I get distracted. It's a completely different environment. It's a completely different job. So when you have an inside sales, we're doing the thing that it's more difficult for your, inside sales team.
To really drive this home, has there been, and again, I'm using that word case study, has there been a situation where you've walked into a builder's den, if you will, and it's a dumpster fire in terms of follow up and everything that they should be doing? They're just not. So the case study I'm looking for, is there one that you came into and like Mary Poppins, you made them take some magic pill, sugar with the medicine, and you were able to turn that around? And if so, how long did it take and what were the results of that?
I have a literal case study that I can send you, but we know exactly what to expect because we've been doing it a while. The first 90 days, we're cleaning up things for you. So that is where we go in, we assess what's happening. We, hammer in the panel that's been loose for, 12 years. I wouldn't expect too much of a result other than you're going to feel less stressed out. You're going to feel like you have way more clarity about the mess, the dumpster fire that you are actually in. Before it was just a guess. Now there's attainable reports and data to it. From 90 to 120 days is when you start seeing progression. You're getting appointments, you're getting sales, or at the very least, depending on how much of a dumpster fire, you at least understand why you're not getting sales. So we're fixing that. So the first year is getting you up to where you need to be. And then year 2 is when we start beating your average. So whatever your baseline is, I expect our online sales team to work with your sales team to increase your sales revenue by 10 to 20%. By third year, we're increasing that depending on how cooperative you are and your sales team. We're looking to increase your sales by 30 to 40%. And by that time, that's typically when you understand your process enough, you understand the way that you nurture your leads, you understand everything about your online sales team. That's where the conversation starts of, we'd like to take this in-house because we know what we're doing. We know how we want to do it. We don't really need that much help anymore.
If you were to wave your magic wand right now with a builder and say, I'm here to save the day, what would be your recommendations to them? Like, what do they need to start doing right now to take advantage of what you're doing and the leads that they generate?
If they were using us or if they were not using us.
Let's say not using you and they'd be foolish not to. So then part of the education process is why they should be using it.
I think right away, start a CRM and try to track as many things as you can. Again, a good CRM will help you track all of that in one place. But try to understand, just like you would never start a company and not understand how much money you're working with, how much money you're spending, what your budget is. Think about your leads the same way. Track your leads, track how I think whenever I speak to a builder owner, that's rarely, I'll ask the question, how many leads do you have? I don't know. But I would say to a owner, especially like, how much do you have in your savings account? I doubt that they'll couldn't at least guess, like, oh, we've got this amount. It's the same thing. I feel like you understanding how many leads you have at all times and what's happening to it and how you're spending it is going to be pivotal for your growth.
That's a big mistake that even real estate professional. Well, I say real estate professionals. I would say any outbound sales organization makes is they'll invest money in generating leads, but they don't follow up in a timely manner because we know that people, if they don't hear back instantly now, because that's what the expectation is, they're going to go somewhere else because competition's fierce. So follow up in a timely manner is like crucial. But most, I think the NAR stat for real estate follow up is something like 60 or 70% go unanswered. So if an email inquiry comes in,
Yeah.
no one's getting back to them. So again, getting back to the CRM and what AI is doing and what you're doing, the whole point of it is to automate the system so nobody falls through the cracks. Is that right?
Yes. In this day and age, if you don't have an automated email coming out when someone signs up, even if it's just like, hey, this is an automated email, which I don't recommend you do, but at the very least, have some sort of response so that they know one, you're in business and two, you're alive, you know? But we actually are right now, one of my employees is doing like our annual national just for our own curiosity. We don't necessarily share this information except for some of our builders who ask. But I think Sarah has just, as of this morning, has reached out to 80 different builders across the US with a online sales team. And they don't reach out to us, I think on average, is like 47 hours right now. And we don't recommend that. It should be instant. You should instantly get an email saying, thank you so much for whatever. But without an OSC, your average is 38 days.
38 days to get a response.
38 days to get a response. And that's us getting rid of builders who just never respond. We take the worst and then we take the best and then we average that numbers. And right now, as of those, I think 67 builders that don't have an OSC, the average is 38 hours.
Oh man, and the time it takes for their salespeople to get back, they could have already bought a home and moved in.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And 38 hours is actually an improvement from 2 years ago. It was 47 hours. So we're doing better, but not
Yeah, but we're living in a society, and it's a cliche phrase to say instant gratification, but that's what people expect, and
right.
especially this generation that have grown up, with extended thumbs, and that's all they do. When they send a message, they want to know that they're acknowledged, even if it's an AI generated one, as you said, timeout. You shouldn't generally do unless it's being identified. Hey, somebody will get back to you, but at least you've made that connection to show that they're appreciated, if nothing else.
Absolutely. And it's in those responses, even those automated responses, sometimes they'll say, thank you, someone will reach out to you. I would encourage, thank you, someone will reach out to you. But if you want immediate service, call this phone number or, send this email because sometimes, like when I reach out to a service, I want to talk to someone and there's no way to talk to them. And that's one of the things I noticed about a lot of the builders. It's very hard to get in touch with you guys. It's not easy to get a follow-up response, but it's even worse to connect with somebody. So that's make it easy for people to find you. I find it confusing, and this is, indicative of our entire consumerism society, except for retail. Retail does a great job. The building industry, regardless of what you're building, you make it very hard for people to get in touch with you. They have to physically find you and go there. But if they're, sitting in their home and they want to reach out, it's just not easy.
Do you think that's a function, Sherry, of a small builder, I don't want to say mentality, I don't mean it derogatory. The plight of a small builder is they try to do everything, right? They try to generate sales, they try to follow, oh, by the way, I got to build the house. Oh, I'm looking at new sites because I have to future plan what I'm going to be doing next. So it becomes one more opportunity to be fumbled, if you will, because they're trying to do it all. So part of it is for the builder to understand there comes a time in their evolution where they have to delegate and let things go.
Right.
Because if you factor in, and this is, I can't claim, victory for this one. I think it was Gerber who wrote the E-Myth, that if you actually break down the amount of hours that you spend working, now I'll be generous, I'll say working, that if the builder is, say, making 200,000 a year, 300,000 a year, whatever that magic number is, when they factor in all the hours, it brings it down to something ridiculous like $25 an hour. It's because you're doing everything and you're doing things that you shouldn't be doing because it is way below your pay grade. And
Right.
that's when you should be delegating. And then again, going back to CRMs and what you do, it's actually more cost efficient. And I'm thinking, oh, this is costing me money, but it's not. It's an investment for me to be able to make more money.
And CRMs, the right CRM will typically save you money. It is investment in the forefront of it, but it's saving you in ways that you would not understand. And I've been blessed to be mentored in that aspect of I just had a conversation with my CMO this morning. She said, is there an easier way to do signatures? We're paying $199 a year for this like app that easily cranks out signatures with technology this day. Can we find like a free solution? And I'm like, yeah, we could find a free solution, but between you and me, it's going to cost about $650 to do that. So
To implement something that's free.
to implement something that's
Yeah.
free. I'm like, so unless you have an idea right now that we can hand off to somebody and they do that, if we sit here and we brainstorm, it's going to cost us about $650 to do that.
Wow.
You're right. So when I think about CRMs and I think about systems, that's ultimately my goal is I want to figure out for my customers, how do I save you money by putting in technologies? And for especially smaller builders, I think because you can't hire a workforce because you're doing it yourself, I would strongly encourage you to find ways to automate, and a CRM is the easiest way to do that.
I think part of the equation that we're forgetting here, the CRM, what we've been focused on is the lead, right? And what builders and most salespeople forget about, it's the referral that's really important too. So a lead is future business, but you've got now business people that you've worked with already that know, like, and trust you, hopefully, through the experience that they've had with you, they know, like, and trust you. That CRM can also be used to maintain that relationship with the people that you already know. So I'm thinking at it from a builder's perspective. I've already sold you the home, but we know it's going to take a year before you actually move in. It's being built. But the question you have, there's that thing called buyer's remorse. Did I pay too much? Was this the right decision? And I'm thinking savvy builders would be shooting little video clips. Hey, Sherry, just wanted to follow up with you. Here's what we've done this week. As you can see, the footers are in, the foundations in port. And next week, we're getting ready to do the framing. Video for week number 2 comes out. Hey, Sherry, it's Bob here. Just wanted to follow up and let you know we've started the framing. Take a look. What do you think? And so they're actually telling you the story, once upon a time, of how we built Sherry's house. And I got to think that is a phenomenal way to go deep in that relationship to maintain it. And when that person is thinking about not them necessarily buying a home, but a friend is. And here's where a psychological term comes in. And I know you know this, but it's called the reticular activator. So it's that part of your brain that is now focused on something because of the situation. So a good example would be I'm thinking about going out and buying a new car. Well, I'm not just buying a new car. I'm looking at buying an Audi, let's say, for shits and giggles. And it's the RS, right? Michael's looking for that RS. And as I'm doodly-doo driving around doing the things that I do during the course of the day, suddenly there is a plethora of Audi RSs driving around. Now, it's not because AI working with Audi tapped in and said, haha, Michael's thinking about buying this car. Let's get more of them on the road. It's because a certain part of my brain, which filters out all the stuff that I'm being bombarded with, has said that car is now top of mind. Now, to put that in builder speak, if Sherry has just bought a home and it's being built, everything related to building is now top of mind with Sherry, picking out furniture, picking out decorations, everything that can possibly, anything is now in your mind because that's top of mind. So you're sitting having a burger with a friend or an expensive glass of whiskey at one of those seedy bars that you go to, and the conversation turns to building, then automatically you're going, oh my gosh, Jane, you need to speak to my builder, Bob, because he's doing a house for me.
Right.
And it seems to me that's another missed opportunity that builders or salespeople in general are taking advantage of because they need to nurture the relationship with the people they already have.
Yes.
Is that part of what your CRM can do?
That is part of what that is all the CRM should do is nurture that lead. And it goes back to me saying what's one thing a builder should do in order to change everything is know where your lead is at, know how many leads you have, and know what type of leads they are, because this is something that you can use forever. I mean, a lead isn't once they purchase a home, it's done. A lead can, like you said, be a referral. A lead can be a repeat customer. A lead can do all sorts of things, give you testimonials. It surprises me that people don't keep track of homeowners because that's one of the things I do. I'm like, can I reach out and get a testimonial from them? And they're like, oh, well, I don't remember if they liked us or not. And it's just, it's a matter of just writing those notes. So I think leads and CRM storing those leads is just a vastly underutilized resource that all builders have.
Oh, that testimonial, which is social proof, the preeminent authority in influence, his name is Dr. Robert Cialdini, and he identified there's 5 prime movers that get people to do. It's nefarious to say to get people to do what you want them to do, but they're influenced to do things.
Right.
And one of the things is we like people that are like ourselves. So that whole aspect of know, like, and trust, you develop a bond. Social proof, which is testimonials, we like to buy things that other people like us like to buy. And getting back to the testimonial again, when I see someone who's similar to me that is recommending something, I'm more apt to then take action because that person's like me. We must have similar tastes. If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. And
Right.
that seems, as you said, it's an underutilized tool, is the whole idea of capturing those testimonials.
Yeah. You can do so much with a lead. Any sort of resource, you can use it once and get rid of it, or you can find other ways to utilize it. And that starts with a CRM, because if you don't even know what your leads are, where they are, what they are, where to find them, then you can't really find better and more efficient ways to use them.
In my brain, it's all about pictures and stories because that's how we learn. That's how we're taught. I mean, it's even biblical. The Bible's a big storybook. So I'm coming back to this again, case study, but let's call it a story because maybe you'll now actually give me one. But what's that big Moby Dick, the big white whale that said, no, Sherry, I'm not interested. Maybe call me in a month. No, Sherry, call me in 6 months. That one builder that persistently said no, that finally said yes. And then what was the response? What was the turnaround of the relationship of you guys getting together?
Okay, so we have a builder in Iowa. It was a very long sales cycle, and eventually he agreed to work with us because we offered, a discount up front in the first month to kind of prove to him. And he had a lot of contacts, so we were willing to do that. But that was actually the original story that I told you ahead of time. He was only building 60 homes a year, I want to say. He's building a lot more now. And he didn't have a whole lot of leads coming in, to my surprise. So their OSC came in and worked his age leads. And after the first 6 months, we got him 12 sales. I mean, that is more than almost like 1/5 of what he would do the whole year. He actually earned back what he paid us by like tenfold, and we've continued that ever since. But the whole time that we've worked with him, a couple of things happened. Because we got him, he had a good CRM. He was not using it. He didn't know how to use it. It wasn't set up correctly. So when we went in and set up the CRM, we were able to help him identify that his best salesperson was actually his worst. And we showed him why. It was just like, you're giving Bob, his name was actually Bob, but you're giving Bob most of the leads because he's your best salesperson. And as a result, he gets more sales. But when we evaluated the lead and we set up his CRM, we're like, actually, Margaret is your best salesperson because she gets the second to least amount of leads and she gets 80% of the same sales as Bob. Like, what happens if you take all of these leads that you give Bob and you distribute evenly towards your salespeople for 90 days? And he did that for 90 days and he found out Bob underperformed by like 20%. So he was 20% worse than his second worst salesperson. And then he found out it's because Bob didn't show up to the model home. It's because Bob's, said that he followed up, but he never did. And that wasn't how we won him over. It's because we were able to show him through his CRM exactly what his sales team was doing, exactly how his customers were, engaging with them. And we were able to give him sales out of it. So he went from I'm good. I've got a great sales team. I just need you to go in and clean up a few things too. He hired us to do his marketing. He hired us to do his online sales. And then he actually hired one of our people to do fractional sales leadership, which we had never offered before. But, that was a great case study because we were able to show him, and this was all through his CRM, exactly what was happening to his business.
We should have probably had a disclaimer that no Bobs were harmed and misused in any way in the making of this podcast or case study. I think we've covered a lot of ground here, Sherry. Let me ask you this question, and I think I asked you once before, so you should be prepared for it. You've been on a number of interviews, podcasts. What's the one question, if you were sitting here, that you wish somebody had asked you that you've never been asked before?
I guess what's your mailing address so I could send you some whiskey?
I'll mark it down right here. Okay. That's
Huh.
the one question you've been dying for somebody to ask you?
I wish
Send
so.
me whiskey?
No, I mean, I think I've been asked all kinds of really interesting questions. I've been blessed to be on, some really good podcasts and I only talk about so many things as it relates to work. I think people normally cover it. I mean, it's just what can I do right now to ensure that, I'm fortifying my business with the market. And that response is make sure that you look at ways to utilize technology before you start utilizing people. As people are more expensive, they're less predictable. The turnover rate's crazy. If you can use, and I say this a lot, and people think that I'm such a tech person, and they're surprised to know that, like, when I go to a restaurant, I never touch my phone. I actually am happy to leave my house without a phone. Like, it's not that I love technology, it's that I love people. And I think in order to preserve people and respect people's time and give people their life back, we should utilize technology first and then find a human solution to that.
Good. Well said, to free yourself up from the drudgery so you can spend more time doing the things you love with the people you love.
Absolutely. If you know me, I would appear to be the most lazy person because I automate everything in my life. I automate the groceries, automate, any sort of chore. I automate reminders. I free up my brain. And it's not necessarily because I love technology or I love AI. It's because I love my family. I want to be able to build a business but still spend time with that. At the core of who I am, I wish someone would ask me that. Why do you love technology so much? It's not because I'm a thief that likes to stay in my dungeon and not have feelings and not it's because I think that the most impactful thing that you can do for yourself and for your company is to find ways to leverage these amazing tools that these big brain people have made for us so that we can free up our time to be humans with each other.
Well, you're that conduit. You're the one that's taken, like, let's say, a very complicated instrument, and you're teaching them how to play it and make beautiful music from it. How's that?
Yeah, I love that. And I'll tell you something, it's not that complicated. I think that I'll spoiler alert and just news, technology is not that complicated. I think consultants and implementers like me try to make it seem complicated so that everyone's like hands off and we can go in and do things for you. But our goal, like I said, is to teach you how to do it yourself so that you can become, self-reliant. That's our goal, is just to augment people's lives and make it easier. It's not to overcomplicate things, but most technologies, it's really not that complicated. I think you just, in your mind, you're like, this is hard. I don't know how to use it. I think most people find that that's not the truth.
Yeah, sure, that's an industry. If you look at the Wizard of Oz, he was just some goofy guy behind a curtain. As long as we can portray that the mystique and that is complicated, people are going to be employed. And I
Mhm.
think that's sadly. One last question. You can see the sun is hitting me
Mhm.
at this weird angle. It's something that you said, and I don't know if it was subliminal, a sly plug, but I'm going to pull it back from you when you were talking about whiskey in a seedy, dark room somewhere. The IBS show, which is in February, you're hosting. Can we talk about this? You're hosting a whiskey room
Yes.
for
So,
VIPs only.
yes. So I love talking about new technologies, new ideas, new selling processes, just all of the new things. And it's funny because this year, the International Builder Show is in Florida, which is originally 5 or 6 years ago, where I got the idea of whiskey business. I was sitting around with the likes of John from Manugo and, all of these big industry people. And David Hagan, who's a sales coach that I got to know, he had whiskey with him. So we all shared whiskey and we had this amazing night just talking about the industry and new ideas. And I'm like, wouldn't it be great if we did this every single year, but we brought builders in so that they could hear all of these, exciting, innovative ideas. And that's how whiskey business started. So it's, by invitation only for industry partners. We pick people we feel really care about the customer, really care about innovation and technology. And then we leave it open to builders. And we typically will not allow more than 100 people total. And it's really nice because it's normally in a dark, quiet, speak easy. There's whiskey, there's food. After a long day of just, especially if it's in Vegas, of overstimulation, you just wanna kind of quiet down and drink whiskey and talk to somebody within your industry. And I've had the privilege of sitting around, and sometimes they just sit there and they talk about fishing, or they talk about their kids, or they talk about, whatever it is. It's just a good place to connect. And if you're interested in, like, what is going on with AI, or what CRMs are good out there, or what are you doing in order to, improve your sales process, it's a really good place to sit and talk to other owners, other VPs, other marketing directors. These are C-suite people who are making decisions and kind of feel alone in, the choices that they have to make.
Not to put you on the spot, but have I been invited to sit with the big boys?
Of course, all of them,
Okay.
so please come.
All right, Chair. It's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Is there anything that we missed that you want to touch on, or do you think we've more or less navigated the CRM realm?
We've covered a lot. I think you did a great job covering all the bases.
All right. Well, I'm going to go outside, work on my tent. I don't even have to go outside. If I sit here long enough, I can work on my tent. Sherry, always a pleasure. I look forward to speaking to you again. And we'll be in Florida together, so that's going to be fun too. And I'll get to meet your geriatric husband, so that'll be
Yes,
cool too.
please.
You take care.
Thanks for listening to Builder Straight Talk. Make sure to like, comment, and share this episode on your favorite social media platform. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, available wherever you get your podcast streaming fix. Until next time, keep building smarter. This episode is made possible by our parent company, Sound Capital, funding built for builders.